Bodybuilders of the golden era, 1970s, understood balance and proportion much better than I would say the bodybuilders of today. So today we're going to be talking about the balance and proportion of the calves, the arms, and the neck. I've already made a video about the calves and the arms and trying to get those measurements to be equal. But for the neck, it needs to be the same as well. Because if you have a neck that's too small, it can affect how you look on stage. And if it's too big, it can also affect that. So you want everything to be equal. So what we're gonna do today is go into the gym and we're gonna measure the arms, the calves, and the neck. And then we're gonna go into how we might want to train for each of those body parts. I'm excited for this one because I have not trained my neck in a long time. So if my neck is lagging behind my arms or my calves, we gotta bring it up a little bit. It's gonna be fun to see what we can do with it. Because back when I was a wrestler doing martial arts and stuff like that, training the neck was very important. So right now, it just hasn't been a super big priority. So it's gonna be fun to see what we can do. All right, let's get into the gym and measure everything out. All right, really excited for this one because in my previous video about arms and calves, I measured both of them equally at 16 inches. It's gonna be kind of cool if we have either a little bit of a discrepancy here, if one of them has gotten bigger than the other one, or if they're both equally growing at the same rates, then I just need to keep doing what I'm doing. So starting off, arms, 16.25 there, so I've added a good 1/4 inch to my right arm. Nice. Okay, arms are equal. That's weird because it always looks like my left arm peaks slightly higher than my right one. But that doesn't really say much. It might just mean that my tricep on my right side is bigger and smaller on my left, biceps bigger on left, smaller on right. I don't freaking know, but we'll go ahead and do calves next. And we are just about pretty much 16 on this side. So, dang, 16.25 on my left side. So my right calf is slightly smaller than my left one. That is surprising. Lastly, all right, so that means that I need to do a little bit more unilateral calf work, try to get that right side to catch up a bit more. And I also need to keep up with the same training volume. So as of lately, I've added in a little bit extra calf work. So I'm training calves about twice a week. I'm training arms about twice a week as well. So I need to keep both of those up. Push the intensity, push the volume, keep it growing. Let's see if my neck is the same as my calves and my arms. 16, okay, there we go. All right, so I need to add about a 1/4 inch to my neck for it to catch up to my arms and my left calf. I need to add about a 1/4 inch to my right calf. The goal for this, obviously everybody wants 20-inch arms, so I would have to have 20-inch arms, 20-inch calves, and a 20-inch neck. But for me, being a natural, I probably won't be able to hit those numbers realistically. So maybe far into the future, if I can continue building muscle at the same rate, which is unlikely, we're going to shoot for 18 inches all around. So 18-inch calves, 18-inch arms, and 18-inch neck. So we are less than 2 inches away in most body parts. So let's see what we can do in training to keep those numbers bumping up. So now it really gets serious. All right, now I'm starting off here just by rolling out my neck a little bit. This is something I don't take super lightly, especially now when I feel like every time I sleep in the wrong position, I end up tweaking my neck in some way. And that might be something that improves by introducing this neck training, so we'll see kind of how that goes. Starting off here with an old school classic. This is something I used to do in my wrestling days. This is called a neck bridge. Now, in wrestling, this is a way to avoid getting pinned, but it is also a fantastic way to strengthen the neck. If you have the cervical spine ability, this exercise can be quite dangerous, so don't just jump into it if you do not have prior experience. I would start out with some of the lighter exercises we're going to get into here in a bit, but just kind of rolling around in different positions here. All right, so I'm taking a band to start off with the lateral flexion. So I'm just kind of flexing into the band a little bit, trying to get as much range of motion as I can without this thing flying off my head. I'm only really doing about 1 set of each of these neck exercises just so I can kind of get back into the swing of things. I really don't want to tweak something or to push myself too far here.
Next, we are going to do some plate curls. Now, this is for the front of the neck. I'm lying with my head kind of off the back of the seat. And I'm trying not to use my arms at all here. I'm really just using the arms to keep the weight on my forehead, using my neck to actually get it moving. But I'm going to do this for both the front and, as you guys can see here, the back side. Now, this 45 actually felt pretty dang heavy, so I only did about 6 reps here. But honestly, pretty happy with this. I used to do a little bit less weight back when I would actually train my neck. So I'm not disappointed with the results at all. It's been so long since I've done any neck training, but honestly, after getting a little bit of a pump, it feels pretty dang good. All right, moving on to calves here. I'm starting off with some single leg calf raises. More so biasing the right side so that I can kind of get that 1/4 inch caught up on the right side. But this is another old school exercise. I believe it was Larry Scott who taught this exercise to Arnold back in the day in order to get his calves up to speed. Because for Arnold, those used to be a lagging body part for him until he started training them 6, sometimes 7 days a week. Currently, I'm not training calves that many times. Like I said before, only 2, maybe 3 times per week if I'm really feeling it. But this is an exercise that I need to focus more on because I definitely feel weak when I do this. Up next, we're going into the pendulum squat calf raise, and I like this variation a lot. I just gotta feel like it puts a good amount of tension into the calves without me really having to focus that much on maintaining position with my feet. In a perfect world, I'd be doing these barefoot, but I don't feel super comfortable taking off my shoes in the gym. And I also just feel like my feet and my socks might be sliding around a little bit, so this is gonna have to suffice for now. If you don't have a pendulum squat, you can do the exact same thing on a leg press as I'm doing here. You have to load up a little bit more weight in order to feel the same stimulus, but it's still a good variation. All right, now what I'm doing here is actually a tip that I learned from Nathan Epler, IFBB Pro, and my dad's bodybuilding coach. I'm bending my knees a little bit in this position, and I'm actually trying to pull my hamstrings down as hard as I can. So I'm flexing my hamstrings in order to get a little bit more out of the outer head of the calf while I do this exercise. It's one of the ways that you can get a little bit better of a contraction and something that I would never have previously tried. So I'm excited to have given this a shot. It actually felt really, really good. And finally, if you don't have a seated calf raise machine, this is another variation that you can do. I picked the heaviest dumbbells in the gym and I put them up on top of my knees. I'm kind of getting set here on the seated bench and really just using as much of a stretch as I can in that bottom position, leaning into the dumbbells, and then just going for however many reps I can do. I don't even know how many I get here, but I'm doing that same thing of trying to contract my hamstrings and pull my heels down towards my glutes as I do this to get a little bit better of a squeeze. Obviously, it gets more difficult as the set goes along to keep that contraction, but just a way to feel it a little bit more. So this one felt pretty dang good as well. Here, just flexing the calves a little bit. Can't see a whole lot of definition, but I think as I start to lose fat a bit more, they're going to start to get more peeled out, especially if I keep training them the way that I have been. Really love the way that the calves feel. I feel them. Now, let's move on to the part we've all been waiting for. Heck yes. Moving on to arms. Now we're going to start with a heavy exercise for the triceps and then a heavy exercise for the biceps. And these first 2 exercises we are going to do for a little bit more volume. I'm going to take about 3 to 4 sets of each of these. So it's going to be a bit more than the next couple exercises afterwards, but I wanted to get a little bit more variety in this session. But since my arms are kind of a lagging body part, something that I really want to bring up, I'm doing a lot more focus on just getting some quality volume in with these first 2 kind of big movements. So starting off with overhead tricep extensions and just straight up alternating dumbbell curls. Just about as basic as it gets for the bis and the tris. It's something I actually don't really like doing alternating dumbbell curls. I'm giving them a shot today just because I really need to get good at them. They're one thing that I see most top-level bodybuilders, especially the ones with actually good arms. This is the exercise that I see them doing Maybe not the most often, but just something that they do as a staple in their arm training sessions. Pump cover's coming off now, and now things are starting to get serious. Really getting a pump. I'm feeling good. This shirt is a large, and it is starting to feel a little bit looser in the arms whenever I don't have a pump, so it's good to kind of fill it out again. As I go into set 2 here, really just focusing on trying to get as much of a stretch in that bottom position as I possibly can. And, sometimes I hit that little top part of the seat there, so it makes it kind of hard to maintain consistent reps. I think you see that here in a couple of reps. But, not that much of a concern. I'm still getting a really, really good stretch, so even if I do hit the seat, it's not that big of a deal. Now, one of the things I want to go into is the actual truth of how easy it is to build big arms as a natural. Now, a lot of natural bodybuilders that I've talked to think that, the arms are something that is just always going to lag, when it comes to, the body parts that you can make strong. A lot of naturals have good backs, a lot of them have good legs, but not very many of them that you see have super strong arms. One of the things that I blame for this is actually the kind of strength-focused, low-volume approach to training. It's something that I've done in the past as well. With most of my body parts, I focus on hitting one really big exercise for maybe a couple of heavy sets of 1 to 5, and then I go on to lighter exercises after that. But I don't put as much focus on volume as much as intensity. I think that is a mistake for the arms. When it comes to arm training, yeah, you want to go heavy, you want to push as much as you can, but actually hitting the arms with a good amount of volume is really, really important for making them grow. In fact, I have pushed my arms more so this past year than I think I ever have in my training in terms of just high quality sets and trying to get as many of them as I possibly can and just focusing on getting an insane pump. And subsequently, my arms have grown more than they have this past year than they ever have, really. Maybe since my noob days of lifting. And I think that just goes to show that the low volume approach with the arms specifically just does not work as effectively. Anytime I stray away from that, my arms start to lag more. And I feel like I'm just now getting to the point where my arms are no longer going to be such a weak point. And that honestly excites me, especially with the idea of doing a bodybuilding show here in the next couple of years. I want my arms to be something that's, not to scoff at. I want them to be something that I can actually be proud of, something that I can showcase what a natural is truly capable of on stage. So I like the idea of doing a little bit more high volume. Something that all the Mike Menzer and Dorian Yates high intensity training people, they don't like that idea. They don't like doing 10, 15, 20 sets for any body part, let alone the arms. And I just think it's silly to avoid the hard work that's necessary to actually make those muscles grow. It's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine when people say that you just only need 1 or 2 heavy sets for the biceps, because if that were true, all of us would have big arms. All of us would have, freaking 18, 20-inch arms walking around as natural athletes. And, that's just not the case. Most of us struggle. Most of us need a little bit more of a push. Even if we are doing the heavier exercises. I'm close grip benching, I'm doing heavy overhead pressing, doing chin-ups, doing heavy rows, and those just don't seem to be enough to grow the arms by themselves. But doing this extra volume, it really seems to be making a difference. All right, a couple of different exercises here, and I'm going back to the same thing I did with calves and picking one set for a couple of different movements just to get some more variety, rather than doing straight sets with one exercise each. Doing some normal skull crushers here, kind of towards the mouth and the nose area. Something I don't do a whole lot of. These actually felt really, really good compared to what I thought they were going to feel like. And I attribute a lot of that to the fact that I've been pushing my behind the head skull crushers so heavy lately. Up next, we got preacher curls. Now, these actually did feel quite heavy. And I think it's just because usually when I do this exercise, I don't have such a big pump already. But since my arms are already pretty fatigued, I already have a pretty big pump, this is intense. So I'm trying to get a good amount of reps here. I think I go for like 10 or so, but it really, really starts to slow down. I take a little bit of a rest pause at the top of this rep. just to kind of get that little bit extra rest before I keep going. But yeah, this felt absolutely brutal. I think this was probably the hardest bicep exercise I did on this day. But after this, we get into something a little bit different. So this rep here, squeeze it. It's one thing I'm kind of bad at, is actually squeezing at the top. And then moving on. All right, so we got a Titan press here, also known as a Tate press. I actually don't know which one of those people, Mike O'Hearn or Dave Tate, stole this exercise first. I believe it comes from Westside Barbell, so we'll give it to Dave Tate. This is one of those exercises that looks really weird, especially from a distance, but if you try it out, it feels amazing on the triceps, so I highly recommend you give this one a shot. Maybe with a little bit more control than what I'm doing here. And in the same position, we are doing some incline curls, another staple for the biceps, just really focusing on getting a deep stretch here. This is quickly becoming one of my favorite bicep exercises, something I definitely don't want to skip if I'm really trying to hit my biceps hard in a session, because I don't feel that contraction at the bottom position, or at the top for that matter, with many other bicep exercises like this one. So I really want to keep these in there and push them hard. Up next, a highly underrated exercise in the tricep kickback. And I'm actually doing these chest supported, so I don't have to focus on bending over and using my glutes and hamstrings. This exercise is crapped on quite a bit by people, especially the science-based community, just because you don't get really any tension on the triceps at the bottom. But I think that is negated by the fact that you get such a good contraction at the top. So these are one that I like to throw in every once in a while just to get a little bit more squeeze. Love the way these feel. And again, same position, we got spider curls to finish off that contraction for the biceps. Now, I like this one too. This one, I don't really feel it as much as other bicep exercises, but I think if I'm still pretty fatigued and I want to do something to get a little bit more volume, this is a good exercise to throw in every once in a while. You guys can see I'm doing a couple reps for my bicep on my right side, just to kind of get that peak a little higher to catch up to the left. I think I do a couple reps like that on this set, but every time I do this exercise, I usually feel it a little bit more from my left side, so just trying to get it to catch up a little bit.
All right, that's more exercises than I'm used to doing for arms, but I still want to finish with one more thing.
All right, finisher here. We are going tricep pushdowns on the cables, and then we're going to quickly superset that with bicep hammer curls on the cables as well. This has been my favorite finisher lately. I've done this pretty much every arm workout, even if I only do one or two big exercises beforehand. I like to hit these for just about as many reps as I can with a decently heavy weight. I think I'm going for like 25 or so here. I'm doing something that I saw, I believe it's Andrei Smayev. I don't really know how to say his name, but he was doing very, very high pump rep kind of partials at the end of his bicep and tricep sets. So I tried that at the end here, and it really, really burnt. It's one of the hardest things that I've ever done when it comes to the cable curls and extensions. But I do the same thing with biceps here in a bit. Same idea, just trying to drive as much blood into the muscle as I possibly can. And seeing myself curling at this angle, I really am happy with the results that I've gotten from this style of training. Just trying to push volume as much as I can while keeping the strength going up. Very, very happy with the results. And right here just goes to show I really am feeling this. Trying to squeeze as much as I can. Like I said, something I did not used to focus on in the past was just getting as much of a pump as possible. Right here I'm showing my inability to get this full shoulder stretch. Really, really stretches out the biceps if you can get it there at the bottom. And then right here I show that I cannot touch my shoulders with my fingertips. And that is a good sign for bicep training when it comes to the pump.
All right, we're done with calves, neck, and the arms. That was a little bit of a longer workout than I would have liked it to have been, but I really wanted to get some quality volume in with some exercises that I have not been doing. You know, I like to do that every once in a while instead of just doing straight sets with one exercise, you know, 3 sets of 10, 4 sets of 10, whatever. I like to do one set of a bunch of different exercises. But anyways, whatever you guys want to do, it doesn't really matter as long as you get a good pump and you're continuing to improve on the metrics that you are tracking and the exercises that are the biggest and the baddest for you. So we're gonna do a little bit of posing here, and then we're gonna go get our post-workout meal. Oh my gosh. Ugh. One challenge of getting a sick pump is you can barely get your dang shirt off when you're done. Generally advisable to practice posing directly after a session. The reason for that is that when you're pumped, you're fatigued, it's harder to get a good connection to those poses. And you guys can see I did not pose for very long. I'm not posing for very long each day. And that is going to come a little bit later whenever we start actually getting serious with, you know, stage presentation and stuff like that, and eventually we start looking for a bodybuilding show to enter. Right now we're just having fun with it, working on the physique, obtaining that golden era look as best we can, and then we're gonna go from there. So thank you guys so much for watching this episode, and I will see you in the next one. God bless.